Today's lesson is white versus black, reactions to interacting with the police. Last month we talked about love of self, love of others, and love of our community. Today we're going to talk about how we can do our part in mending the relationship between community and law enforcement. We've had 2 awesome episodes this month, talking to our officers, talking to our community, and now it's time for us to sort of change directions. And so I've brought in some wonderful guests that I'd like to introduce to you. So please welcome to the show my very special guest, again, Judge Ramona Taylor. Give her a hand.
Good morning. Yeah.
Again, who helped me put this series together and who I'm eternally grateful for all of her help and her wisdom and her contacts for helping to pull this together. It has been an awesome experience thus far, and we're just having a great time. Are you enjoying yourself?
I'm having a blast.
Wonderful. Also, please welcome to the show Pastor Michael Edwards, Miss Wilhelmina Edwards from Campus Ella Heights, Seventh-day Adventist Church. On my sheet it says SDA, okay? I had to think for a second. Mr. Michael Bellavia. Right? And Mr. Richie Shorman. Yeah. Got it. Give them a hand. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward for a great conversation, just discussion with you. So please share, please be comfortable. Share with our audience your thoughts as we go into our discussion. There has been many panels going on around our nation, really focusing on the police, African Americans, the use of force, equality, and a focus on differences. Throughout this series, my focus is on healing. My focus is on helping people to understand some of the things that are going on. Sometimes it's not what it seems. Sometimes you have to really dig a little bit deeper so that you understand what's going on behind an issue. And that's what we want to do today. We want to spread love, not hate. We want to do that by asking you to open up your minds, open up your hearts, and really try to hear the message that we're going to share today, and respect one another. As you move forward, as you go throughout your day, as you have conversations with different people in the community, I want you to have a different conversation, okay? So that we can show that we do really love each other. Sometimes we get off on the wrong foot. We don't know how to understand one another. Like we just talked about our cultural miscommunication. We have a part 2 of that, which is our white versus black reactions to interacting with the police. So I'm gonna get right into my questions. Are you ready?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, first question. Has anyone here had an interaction with the police, and how was it handled by you or the police?
Well, I'll be the first to comment on it.
Didn't see that coming,
yes.
did you?
Yes, I have. I generally take a brisk walk every morning. I live in Suffolk, Virginia. And I was taking my walk. I had my red stick with me because, you know, it's not really a safe place to walk. So the police car came and stopped me. The first time it said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And I said, "I'm just fine." So when it happened the second time, the flashers was on. And you. Yes, they flashed me. They flashed me.
They flashed the first
mind you, I am taking a brisk walk, minding my business with my stick, not bothering anyone. And the police officer says, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Didn't give me a reason. Now, this is 2 stops. And I'm saying, okay, what is the reason? And never got a reason. So, you know, this built up anxiety. So I just stopped walking. I joined the gym.
And I understand from that, you were telling me too, it made you think about a prior experience as well, from sort of previous, you know, early in life that you had with you and your sister too, that caused some other issues. So it just brought up some other emotions as well, which happens a lot of times when people interact with the police.
Yes, we had a lot of incidents. If you're a Black person, you have a book of things that happen. And one thing I can say about Black people, we are a kind and compassionate people, because over the years when things happen to us or our family members, we never wild out. We understand the situation and understand we have to keep our calm, because in the media there is a perception that we are just off the chain and we're awful people. So we have to combat what's already out there.
Very good.
Yeah, I've been pulled over. I pastored in New Jersey. It was pretty bad. I got pulled over at least 12 times.
Wow.
As a pastor, and there's always some flimsy reason why I was pulled over for. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in addition to that, because I was there when he was pulled over, they asked for the bill of sales of the car. And they asked him what his profession was. And, we as African Americans deal with this, but we deal with it in such a way to preserve our lives.
Yes.
And I do think that's a positive note to the actual situation, because as I was raised, I was taught, in certain circumstances, how to deal with police officers and, how to maintain respect and get honestly in and out of the situation is really what everybody kind of wants, safely. And I can respect that anxiety coming from the Black community, because, the majority of the white community doesn't quite understand what it's like to worry about not only are your children going out and being safe from people who mean them harm or criminals, but you'd also have to worry about police officers, whether they're going to be safe around them as well. So I definitely understand that anxiety.
Okay. Richie, anything you want to add?
Oh, I've definitely had some run-ins with police officers, not necessarily all bad ones,
Okay.
but just a part of still being a member of the youth. I still see a lot of police interaction
Okay.
going on in when it comes to like certain events and stuff like that.
Okay.
And
Do you think it's handled fairly?
for the most part, yeah, but I can still definitely see some biased.
Interaction, like,
Yeah,
Can you give me an
especially when it
example?
comes to the African American community and when it comes to the white community. I think what I've always experienced was just, I don't know, just human interaction. It can be there's a lack of communication.
there is. There is.
Definitely.
And we talked a little bit about that on our previous episode, and so we're going to talk still about that, but I want to sort of pull a little bit more out of that conversation, and that's why we're having this conversation about the actual interactions of what's happening and what's going through people's minds and how it makes them feel. And so one of the things that I know I wanted to sort of get in is sort of the differences. So I'll let Judge Taylor take over from there.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. And I've listened with interest to the four of you, and my African American panelists are having quite a different conversation than the non-African American panelists. So do you think there is a difference in the way that Caucasians and ethnic minorities react to being stopped by the police? Because I'm hearing you say, you were taught what to do when stopped, and I'm hearing you say, for the most part, your interactions have been safe, and then I'm hearing the two of you say, maybe not so much, perhaps some flimsy reasons, I think I heard you say.
Yeah, all times I've been pulled over by a police officer, if I look back in the past, they have not been good. It's almost demeaning. And the reasons given were, it didn't make sense. It was like almost as if they were trying to get you to react, rather than serving you, protect and serve. I felt as though I was being tested by them in terms of my reactions.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm a very outspoken person, and very much so. And when I'm pulled over unfairly, there was one time when we lived in North Jersey, I was pulled over because I had a hood on my head. And when I got my ticket, I went straight to the police station and reported it and said I wanted follow-up on that. As a result of that, I got on Municipal Alliance and was able to voice my concerns about what was going on and how the police was responding to people of African American descent. There is a difference. I look now when we go into Walmart and different stores, you have our Caucasian brothers carrying their sidearms, and they are very intimidated, and they say things that are not kind, and they're able to do this. If we get a BB gun in a store or even look at a BB gun, we get shot down. So there is an obvious difference of how our white brethren, and I'm saying they're our brethren because they are our brethren, but there's a difference on how they're treated and how we're treated.
Okay. Interesting.
And I completely agree. I mean, from the white community perspective, when you're confronted with these types of issues, you do have that different type of attitude. You do not quite understand until you find yourself in those types of shoes. I served for 5 years. I went overseas, and there were some circumstances where I was the minority. And that really helped me to understand that perspective. And it is, you are 100% correct, very, very real in the United
Can I
States.
ask you a question while we're on this too? And so in the upbringing, in the raising, think about as you were a child and even maybe with friends and family members and cousins and that kind of thing. Do you think, or what was really passed down? What do you remember? And maybe it wasn't just said directly to you, but in how to interact with the police. What were you taught? I think you alluded to a little bit of this earlier, but what were you taught? And then I'm going to come right back over here and ask you all the same thing. What was given to you, even if it wasn't said verbally, but what was sort of passed down?
Well, as we've already stated, history's on my side. My parents grew up in the 60s and 70s, and they didn't have to worry about segregation. So they didn't necessarily teach us, that we had to have our ears pointed up and ready to go and be ready for that type of thing. We were ignorant to the situation that other people run into, whether you're, brown, yellow, green, blue, it really didn't matter.
So from that though, so what did you pick up? So when you look at an officer stops you or pulls you over or waves at you or whatever, what's your first thought?
How do I get out of a ticket or getting in trouble?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Growing up in the suburbs, the police presence was always rather prominent in the neighborhoods that I was growing up in, and so initially every time I see a police officer, I get nervous. I can think of one time in particularly where I was pulled over. I was talking to a police officer. I was out of my car, and everything was going fine with the conversation. Nothing was I wasn't feeling necessarily in danger.
Okay.
Another officer came for backup, and he kind of was instigating me, verbally, trying to get a
Pushing
reaction
buttons.
out of me,
Okay.
and grabbed my arm, looking for a reaction. And I didn't really give into it, but I will say that I was taken to jail that day. But at the end of the night, the initial officer, the arresting officer, drove me in the front seat, and we had a perfectly fine conversation on the way there.
She was laughing.
It was right. Yeah.
So
No, it seems a little bit taboo.
right?
It really does.
Especially in today's society.
Yeah. But the other officer, I think just came with
A different mentality.
with the notion that I was
yeah.
there to cause trouble. I mean.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. I want to come back. Okay.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, we had an incident. We were riding on the highway, my wife and I, and there was road construction going on.
Oh, yes. I
And
remember that.
and we was following the people as they go down the road. I'm sorry, was going down. Folk were going down the road. Was following them on the highway, and we followed them along the road. And a cop came up to me, and he's screaming and yelling at me, hollering in my face, and I was cool. I took my glasses off, just was talking to him. Yes, sir, officer. And he was going off, going screaming. And finally, his partner was a female. She called him to the side, and they talked for a while. And he came back, and he was calm. But he was just going off on me. But I wouldn't allow that to change my disposition.
Good.
I think the question was asked, what was our instructions coming up in regards to the police? We were taught not to go into certain neighborhoods. They're called sundown towns after dark, or you could be killed or arrested. That went into our instructions. When you're pulled over by the police officer, say nothing. It's yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, sir. It is a survival technique and tactic for us. So when a police officer pulled me over, I'm in fear of my life. I'm praying and hoping that the officer has a good day. Because if he has a good day, I can go home. I won't be a statistic on the news. So it's high anxiety. And yes, we are instructed on what to do just to come home again for another time.
Exactly. I think our panelists have done a great job of sort of pulling out this issue, sort of talking even in depth more about communication and some of these interactions that we have. Again, is not the same for everyone. And the point of having this conversation is that, again, I want you to dig deeper. Sometimes it's not just what you see, but generationally, we have been sort of, we've learned to deal with things differently. And so for some people, you know, and I've heard this in talking to my Caucasian colleagues and friends, and again, with my African-American friends and Latino friends, it's very different. And so for a lot of the upbringing, it is, you know, you see the police, you know, my Caucasian friends will say you wave at them, you know? And so for a lot of my African-American or my Hispanic friends, they go, no, you just look straight forward and you hope they don't follow you. And actually, when you pass, you look in the mirror, you go, did they pull out? And I still find myself sometimes when I'm on the highway, which is a lot, you know, you get those little cut throughs and the police sitting there, I'll pass and then I'll go. I mean, there's like 25 cars on the road with me and I'm still thinking, are they coming after me? And so there are some things that it's set in us for how to react. And I just want people to understand that we have different reactions. And I don't think that people always think about those things. So police, I want you to understand that. Our law enforcement, I want you to be able to respect that. But not everyone has that same experience. And for the community to understand where those things come from so that you don't react in ways that's just based on our past, but react in ways that cause a respectful, positive communication or dialogue if something like this should happen, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Again, it's life-changing. Give our panelists a hand again. Awesome job. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with It's Life-Changing. Time for our community resources. I'm so excited to have back with me Mr. Reginald Medard. Give him a hand.
Glad to be back.
Thank you so much for being back. We had an awesome episode together before, just talking about some of the great work that he has done in the community. And so I want you to know, if you didn't see that episode, tell people a little bit about you.
Well, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
I went to a vocational school, and there was a lot of activities in New York for you to join.
Awesome.
And I joined a lot of conflict resolution and peer mediation classes.
I like that.
Gave me a lot of insight on how to react with the community.
Okay.
NYPD wasn't a favorable department to join at the time. My brother lived in Virginia, so I moved to Virginia Beach, and I joined the police department. I wanted to use the skills that I learned as a student and to try to help the community. So they immediately put me in the community. I worked in Twin Canal, Bridle Creek, and Lake Edwards, and I joined the community police department.
That's wonderful.
Interaction with the students was a little different.
Yeah.
When I was growing up,
Okay.
I noticed there was a disconnect.
Yes.
There was a break in the unit.
Yes.
And the values and the morals that we were taught as kids, they dissolved for some reason. So I believe that I couldn't, because of the rules and regulations of the police department were hold at a great standard, I thought I could do a lot more if I was to leave the department and open my own community-based company that I can interact with these students.
Yes.
And jump back in time to when I was a kid and the type of values that was instilled in me from teachers, police officers, pastors, and I want to give back to the community, and I started Talk Family Services.
I think that's wonderful. And we're going to talk a little bit about Talk Family Services, but I want you to know that our show today actually was on white versus black interactions and reactions to working with the police. And so, you know, we've had an awesome show so far. And so having a background in law enforcement and now being on the civilian side, what do you think? Do you think there's a difference?
There is a big difference. In law enforcement, they teach you sometimes to do what they call pretextual stops. Stop you for a minor infraction, and hopefully you'll find a larger infraction. Most of the stops when you catch these big capers is from an out tail light or a Christmas tree hanging from the rearview mirror. But in this society, the police officers go a little further, and they tend to stop people based on color, based on age and ethnicity, and it's not just a...
So you think the driving while black thing is real?
It's real, it's real. It has gotten to the point where we look past the tools that are given to us as police officers, and we just because we aren't policed every day. There is an internal department, but when you're on the streets, you're by yourself, and the decisions that you make, you know, that you pretty much make it by yourself.
I love these different perspectives, and I love that you sort of, you know, you represent both sides, you know, but I love that you're also working with families now. So now you have a company, this wonderful person. He's also a huge entrepreneur in Virginia Beach. And so tell us a little bit about Talk Family Services and what you have to offer there.
Talk Family Services, it's intensive at-home services for troubled youth.
Love it.
If you can't relate with your parents and your grandparents, you can't respect teachers, you can't respect police officers. So we want to reinstate those values. So we'll come into the home, and we'll have individual and family and group sessions where we try to reinstill these values with the kids. We also have substance abuse for adults. We also have homes for, it's a new term, intellectually disabled, for people with issues. So what we like to do is let other people know that the services are there, and we don't have the same type of funding as government. We use a referral-based program. So as long as people know,
insurance-based?
Insurance-based. By Medicaid takes care of the payment, but people need to know that we're there.
Yes.
So I want to definitely have this opportunity to talk about the company, what we're doing.
Definitely. Well, I'm happy to have you, and definitely always spread positive things. And again, it's Talk Family Services. Tell us a little bit where they're located, because I don't want to forget that piece.
About 1500 East Little Creek Road in Norfolk, Virginia. Website is talkfamily.net. And then they can reach us. I have a phone number here. I can remember. It's 757-248-8255. They can reach us anytime.
Definitely. So, you know, it's intensive in-home. You have family services, substance abuse, possibly some residential services that's there or coming for our intellectual disability. People who are dealing with that. Also, this sounds like there's a lot of support.
A lot of support.
So I think that's really great. So when you have your Talk Family Services, so when you need me at the Center for Peace, we can collaborate, right?
Oh, definitely. We actually have a luncheon that I'd like to invite you April 3rd.
Awesome. I like luncheons.
I also own a restaurant, Spades Restaurant and Lounge, 833 Chimney Hill Shopping Center.
Yes, Spades, awesome food.
And actually have that place for a forum where people can use to rent, to have these type of we've had domestic violence, we have substance abuse, Lucas Foundation, and on April 3rd, we're inviting a lot of people to that function. Housing Authority, Child Protective Services, the court system, the mayor, police department. We definitely want to bring awareness that we're there. And we also want to recognize some people like yourself for the awesome job that you're doing in the community. So April 3rd at Spades Restaurant, we're inviting a lot of officials.
What's the name of the event?
It's Talk Family Services Luncheon Launch Party. We have a big department that we're starting, a new location, and we want the community to know that we're there for them.
I love that. So that's Talk Family Services Luncheon, April 3rd, 2016. At
Spades Restaurant and Lounge.
Spades Restaurant. What time?
It's at between 3 and 6 p.m.
Between 3 and 6 p.m.
And you can RSVP through the number that I just left. And we also can use the website as well.
So make sure you take advantage of the services. If you can make it out to the luncheon to come out and support this businessman, entrepreneur, former police officer, now Virginia person, we welcome you to the show anytime to share all the positive things. I love that you're always mentoring and doing something great for the kids. So take advantage of the services. If you have questions, you can always email him. We'll have the information on the screen so that you can get more information. Thank you again, Reginald, for being on the show. I think you're an awesome asset to the community.
I appreciate it.
Like you say, you know, we'll see each other again. We'll do this. We'll collaborate. And thank you again for everything that you do. I think it's just wonderful.
And I appreciate you for having me.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for watching. It's Life Changing. We have had some awesome episodes this whole month. And so thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the love and the support. Again, be careful of how you look at these interactions and things that are going on in the community. It's not always what you think. You know, we've talked about some really interesting topics this month. And so I want you, again, like I keep saying, to dig deeper, to not just make judgments based on just what you see. And so if you want to hear more about that, stay tuned because we have an awesome episode coming up next week. I'll see you then. God bless you.